24 hours. Spend whatever you want. Victoria Hayes threw her platinum credit card across the registration table. It slid to a stop in front of a black man in a borrowed suit, a man who'd just been turned away from a Boston charity gala for lacking $100. Her friends burst out laughing. The man picked up the card without a word, without thanks, without even looking at her. He walked out into the cold. Victoria smirked. She expected casinos, strip clubs, proof that poor people destroyed every opportunity they touched. At 2:43 a.m. her phone lit up. Boston Children's Hospital, $47, $322. She had made a joke. He had saved his daughter's life. Comment the city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story reaches. He doesn't meet the minimum donation requirement. The registration woman's voice carried across the ballroom. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Victoria Hayes watched from 20 feet away, champagne in hand, as a tall black man in an ill-fitting suit stood frozen at the entrance table. "The minimum is $100, sir. I'm sorry, but I understand." His voice was quiet, controlled. "Thank you for your time." He turned to leave. Victoria moved before she knew why. "Wait." The man stopped. He didn't turn around. Victoria closed the distance between them, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She could feel Madison and Trent watching from the bar, could feel the weight of a dozen curious stares. She pulled out her credit card. "Take it." Now he turned. His eyes, dark, steady, unreadable, moved across her face. "Excuse me." "You heard me." Victoria held the card between two fingers, like she was offering a cigarette. 24 hours. No limit. Spend whatever you want. The ballroom had gone quiet. Someone coughed. Someone else whispered something that ended in a laugh. The man didn't move. "Consider it a social experiment," Victoria continued. Her voice was louder now, playing to the audience she knew was listening. 24 hours to live like the other half. Let's see what you do with it. You don't know me. That's the point. And you're just handing a stranger your credit card. Unlimited. I'm curious." "About what?" Victoria smiled. "About what you'll prove." The man's jaw tightened. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, not with gratitude, not with anger, but with something closer to recognition. Like he could see exactly what game she was playing. Then he took the card. 24 hours, he said. 24 hours. He walked out without another word. Trent appeared at Victoria's elbow laughing. "Holy shit! Did that just happen?" "It happened. He's going to drain that thing in an hour. You know that, right?" Victoria watched the doors swing closed behind the stranger. "That's what I'm counting on." Chad. 3 hours later, Victoria's penthouse was full of people who couldn't stop talking about what she'd done. "You're out of your mind," Madison said, refilling her wine glass. "That man is probably at a casino right now betting your money on blackjack." "Or buying a car," Trent added. "Something flashy. Something he can show off to his friends before it gets repossessed." "I've got alerts set up." Victoria checked her phone. "Nothing yet." "He's waiting," Madison said. "He knows you're watching. He'll wait until you're asleep, then go crazy." "Maybe." Victoria stared at the blank notification screen. "Or maybe he's too proud to use it." Trent snorted. "Pride, that guy. He took your card without even saying thank you. Trust me, he's got no pride. He's just figuring out how to maximize the damage." Everyone laughed. Victoria laughed too. But something sat wrong in her chest. Something about the way the man had looked at her before he took the card, like he was making a decision that had nothing to do with her. The notification came at 7:15 a.m. Victoria was still half asleep, reaching for her phone out of habit. She expected spam. She expected nothing. Boston Children's Hospital, $47, $322.14. She sat up so fast she knocked her water glass off the nightstand. What the hell? She read it again. Boston Children's Hospital, $47,000. Processed at 2:43 a.m. Not a casino, not a car dealership, not a strip club, a children's hospital. Her phone buzzed again. Dorchester Property Management, $4,847 rent. 3 months of back rent plus late fees. Again. National Grid 312.67 and utilities. Again. CVS Pharmacy, $127.43 prescriptions. Victoria's hands were shaking. She scrolled through the transactions looking for the mistake, looking for the luxury purchase that would confirm everything she believed. There was nothing. Every dollar went to survival. Hospital bills, housing, electricity, medicine. She called Madison. Did you see? It's 8 in the morning, Vic. The transactions. From the card. Did you see them? What no? What did he buy? He paid off a hospital bill. $47,000 to Boston Children's Hospital. Silence. That's not what I expected. He paid rent, 3 months of back rent, and utilities, and pharmacy bills. Victoria's voice cracked. He's not buying anything, Madison. He's paying off debts. For a child. Well, Madison paused. That's still your money. You said he could spend it however he wanted. I know what I said. So technically, I know. Victoria hung up. She sat in her bed silk sheets Riverview artwork worth more than most people's houses and felt something crack open inside her chest. She had wanted him to fail. She had wanted proof that people like him couldn't handle money. That poverty was a character flaw. That she was rich because she deserved to be, and he was poor because he didn't. Instead, he had paid for his daughter's heart surgery. At 2:43 in the morning, while Victoria slept in her penthouse, a man she'd tried to humiliate had used her money to save his child's life. She found his number through the hospital billing department. It took an hour and more lies than she wanted to count. He answered on the third ring. This is Victoria Hayes, from the gala. I know who you are? His voice was flat. The bank called about the transactions. They flagged them as unusual. I can explain everything. Hospital bill for my daughter's cardiac catheterization. 3 months back rent, we were facing eviction. Utilities about to be shut off. Prescriptions for her heart medication. Groceries. I have receipts for every dollar. That's not why I'm calling. Then why? Victoria didn't have an answer. The silence stretched. I expected you to spend it differently, she finally said. I know what you expected. You don't know. I know exactly what you expected. His voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen, but something in it made Victoria's chest tighten. You expected me to prove that poor people can't be trusted, that we're poor because we make bad decisions, that if someone like you gave someone like me unlimited money, I'd blow it on something stupid. Victoria opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You wanted a story to tell your friends. I gave my credit card to a homeless-looking black guy, and you'll never believe what he bought. You wanted to laugh about me at brunch. That's exactly what it was. Don't lie to me. I saw your face when you handed me that card. You weren't being generous. You were running an experiment, and you already knew what results you wanted. Victoria's throat burned. I used the money where it was needed, Marcus continued. For my daughter, for keeping a roof over her head, for making sure she has the medication that keeps her heart beating. That's what money is for from where I stand. He paused. I don't know what money's for from where you stand, but I watched you hand me that card like it was a party trick, like my desperation was entertainment. So I think I have a pretty good idea. What's your daughter's name? Victoria's voice came out smaller than she intended. Lily. She's 8. What's wrong with her? Ventricular septal defect, hole in her heart. She's had 2 surgeries already. The bill you saw that was for a cardiac catheterization from 6 months ago. They were threatening to send it to collections, which would have destroyed what's left of my credit. Would have made it impossible to rent anywhere decent. Would have meant Lily growing up in places no kid should have to live. I didn't know. You didn't ask." The words landed like a slap. "How much time do I have left?" Marcus asked. Victoria checked. "About 16 hours. Then I have work to do." The line went dead. Victoria spent the next 3 hours watching notifications appear on her phone. Star Market, $87.23 groceries. Walgreens, $34.12. More prescriptions. MBTA, $90 $100. Monthly transit pass. Every transaction told a story of a man stretching every dollar as far as it could go. A man who had been handed unlimited wealth and used it like it might disappear at any moment, because for him, it always did. She drove to Dorchester that afternoon. Her Mercedes rolled through streets she'd never seen, past buildings she'd never noticed, into a neighborhood that existed 20 miles and 1,000 worlds away from her penthouse. She parked a block from his address. An old woman sat on the front steps of his building watching children play on a cracked concrete lot. A teenager pushed a shopping cart full of cans toward the corner. A man in work boots trudged past, lunch pail in hand, eyes fixed on the ground. This was where Marcus Johnson lived, where he raised his daughter, where he had sat at his kitchen table at 2:43 a.m. and used a stranger's credit card to pay for the surgery that kept his child alive. Then she saw them. Marcus came out the front door holding Lily's hand. The girl was small, too small for 8, Victoria thought. She moved carefully, like someone had taught her that her body was fragile, that running and jumping and playing were luxuries she couldn't afford. They walked toward the corner bodega. Lily pointed at something in the window. Marcus knelt down, eye level with his daughter. He spoke quietly, too quietly for Victoria to hear. Lily's face fell for just a moment. Then she nodded. They kept walking. Past the bodega, past whatever small thing Lily had wanted. Victoria thought about the transactions she'd tracked. Hospital, rent, utilities, medicine, groceries. Nothing for himself, nothing frivolous, nothing unnecessary, not even a toy for his daughter. She thought about the handbag she'd bought last month, $4,000. She'd worn it twice. She drove home in silence. Marcus returned the card the next morning. 24 hours exactly. He stood in Victoria's doorway holding a manila folder, wearing the same borrowed suit. "Everything's documented." He held out the folder. Every transaction, every receipt, every dollar accounted for. Victoria took it. "You didn't have to do this." "Yeah, I did." She looked at the folder, looked at him. "You didn't spend anything on yourself." "I spent it on my family. That's the same thing." "I mean nothing just for you. Nothing because you wanted it." Marcus's expression didn't change. "When was the last time you had to choose between keeping the lights on and buying your kid medicine? When was the last time you lay awake at 3 a.m. doing math in your head, trying to figure out which bill you could skip this month without losing everything?" Victoria didn't answer. "Frivolous isn't something I have room for. Wanting things for myself isn't something I have room for. Every dollar I've ever earned has gone to keeping Lily alive and keeping a roof over her head. That's been my life for the past 2 years, since her mother died." Victoria's breath caught. Her mother, Keisha. She died during Lily's second surgery. Marcus's voice stayed steady, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Complication. Blood clot. Nobody saw it coming. 1 minute she was in the waiting room praying our daughter would make it through. The next minute she was on the floor and nothing anyone did could bring her back." The hallway seemed to shrink around them. "I held her hand while she died," Marcus said. "She couldn't talk anymore, but she didn't have to. I knew what she wanted. Take care of Lily. Promise me." That was the only thing that mattered to her, the only thing that mattered to either of us. He met Victoria's eyes. "So when you handed me that card, when you stood there smiling with your champagne and your friends making jokes about what the poor man would buy, I thought about refusing. I thought about throwing it back in your face and walking out with my dignity intact. Why didn't you? Because Lily needed heart medication we couldn't afford. Because we were about to be evicted. Because the hospital was threatening to send collectors after us, which would have ruined the last shred of credit I had left. He took a breath. Pride is a luxury, Miss Hayes. And I don't have room for luxuries. I haven't had room for them since Keisha died and left me alone with a daughter who needs surgeries I can't pay for and medications I can barely afford. So I took your card. I swallowed every ounce of shame I felt. And I used your money to keep my daughter alive. Victoria's eyes burned. You wanted to prove something about people like me, Marcus said. I wanted to prove something too. What? That money doesn't measure a man's worth. That being poor doesn't make someone stupid or greedy or less than human. That how you spend matters more than how much you have. He turned toward the elevator. I think I proved my point better than you proved yours. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside. Her mother's name was Keisha, he said just before the doors closed. She was a nurse. She spent her whole life taking care of other people. She would have been ashamed of what you did at that gala. He paused. She also would have forgiven you for it. That's the kind of person she was. The doors closed. Victoria stood alone in her hallway, holding a folder full of receipts, feeling the weight of everything she had never understood pressing down on her chest. She had handed her credit card to a stranger as a joke. He had used it to keep a promise to his dying wife. And somewhere in Dorchester, a little girl with a hole in her heart was waking up in an apartment her father had almost lost alive because a man in a borrowed suit had swallowed his pride and taken money from a woman who wanted him to fail. Victoria opened the folder. On top of the receipts, Marcus had placed a photograph, printed on plain paper. A little girl with dark hair and her father's eyes smiling at the camera, like she didn't know how hard the world was trying to break her. On the back in careful handwriting, her name is Lily. She's 8. Her mother, Keisha, died holding her hand after Lily's second surgery. Thank you for helping her father stay out of debt long enough to watch her grow up. Victoria read the words until they blurred. Then she closed the folder, walked to her window, and looked out at the Charles River, glittering in the morning sun. She had never felt so small in her life. Victoria didn't move from the window for a long time. The folder sat on her coffee table unopened after that first look. She couldn't bring herself to go through the receipts again. Couldn't look at Lily's photograph without feeling something twist in her chest. Her phone buzzed. Madison. Brunch at noon. The usual place. Victoria stared at the message. The usual place. The restaurant where they dissected people's lives over eggs, Benedict and mimosas. Where they had laughed about what Marcus would buy with her credit card. She typed back, not feeling well. Rain check. The reply came instantly. You've been weird since that gala thing. Everything okay? Victoria set down her phone without answering. Everything was not okay. Something had shifted in the past 24 hours, and she couldn't shift it back. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus kneeling in front of his daughter outside that bodega. She heard his voice on the phone, flat and tired. You wanted to prove something about people like me. She had. She had wanted exactly that. And she had been wrong. The realization sat in her stomach like a stone. Victoria Hayes had built her entire worldview on a foundation that had just cracked down the middle, and she didn't know how to stand on the rubble. She picked up her phone again and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. Victoria. Her father's voice was surprised. Everything all right? I need to ask you something. Go ahead. When you started the company, when you were first building everything, did you ever have to choose between paying bills and keeping things together? Silence on the line. Where is this coming from? Just answer me. Please. Her father was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer. Older. There was a winter, he said. You were maybe 2 years old. Your mother and we had put everything into a property deal that fell through. Lost nearly all of it. I remember sitting at the kitchen table looking at a stack of bills I couldn't pay, wondering if we'd have to sell the house. Victoria had never heard this story. What did you do? I borrowed money from your grandfather, something I swore I'd never do. Took me 5 years to pay him back, and he never let me forget it. Her father paused. Why are you asking about this now? I met someone. At the literacy gala. A man who... Victoria stopped. How could she explain what she'd done? How could she tell her father that she'd handed her credit card to a stranger, as a joke, expecting him to prove that poor people didn't deserve money? A man who what? A man who made me realize I don't understand anything about how most people live. Her father was quiet again. That's a hard thing to realize, he finally said. Most people in our position never do. They go their whole lives thinking they earned everything they have, that the people who struggle just didn't work hard enough. He sighed. I used to think that way too, before that winter. What changed? I learned that the difference between success and failure is usually just luck and timing. I worked hard, yes. But so do millions of people who never catch a break. The only reason I'm not one of them is because your grandfather had money to lend when I needed it most. Victoria thought about Marcus, about the hospital bill that had been crushing him for 6 months, about the eviction notice buried in a stack of envelopes he couldn't bear to open. No one had been there to lend him money. No one had caught him when he fell. Thanks, Dad. Victoria, whatever this is about, whatever you're going through, you can talk to me. You know that. I know. I just need to figure some things out first. She hung up and looked at the folder again. Then she opened it. The receipts were meticulous, every transaction itemized, every dollar accounted for. Marcus had organized them chronologically with handwritten notes explaining each expense. Boston Children's Hospital, $47, $322.14. Cardiac catheterization. Lily Johnson, outstanding balance from 6/15. Dorchester Property Management, $4, $847. Back rent, 3 months plus late fees. Eviction notice received $10.3. National Grid, $312.67. Past due balance. Shut off scheduled, 10/18. CVS Pharmacy, $127.43. Metoprolol, 25 mg. Aspirin, 81 mg. Furosemide, 20 mg. Lily's cardiac medications. Star Market, $87.23. Groceries. Victoria read each note twice. The handwriting was careful, precise. The handwriting of someone who had learned that every detail mattered, that mistakes had consequences he couldn't afford. At the bottom of the stack beneath the photograph of Lily, there was one more piece of paper. A letter written on lined notebook paper. Miss Hayes, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you at all. But Keisha always said that people deserve to know the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. So, here it is. 2 years ago, my wife died in a hospital waiting room while our daughter was in surgery. 1 minute she was praying. The next minute she was on the floor, and nothing anyone did could save her. The doctors said it was a blood clot, a complication from the stress. Her heart just stopped. I held her hand while she died. The last thing she said to me was, "Take care of our girl." She couldn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. I knew what she meant. I've spent every day since then trying to keep that promise. Lily doesn't remember much about her mother. She was 6 when Keisha died. She knows Mama was a nurse who helped sick people. She knows Mama loved her more than anything in the world. She knows Mama is in heaven now, watching over her. What Lily doesn't know is that her medical bills are the reason we almost lost our home. She doesn't know that her father works 2 jobs and still can't make ends meet. She doesn't know that some nights I sit at the kitchen table after she's asleep, staring at numbers that don't add up, wondering how much longer I can keep going. I'm not telling you this so you'll feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because you looked at me and saw a stereotype. You saw a poor black man in a cheap suit, and you decided you knew my whole story. You thought I'd take your money and waste it on something stupid. You wanted me to prove you right. I wanted to prove you wrong. Not for me, for Lily, for Keisha, for every person who's ever been looked at the way you looked at me and told they don't deserve a chance. You gave me 24 hours. I used them to keep my family alive. That's all I've ever wanted. That's all most people want. Maybe now you understand that. Marcus Johnson. Victoria read the letter 3 times. Then she put her head in her hands and cried. She cried for Marcus, who had lost his wife and nearly lost everything else. She cried for Lily, who would grow up without a mother. She cried for Keisha, who had died in a waiting room while her daughter fought for her life on an operating table. But mostly, Victoria cried for herself. For the person she had been at that gala, champagne in hand, making jokes about a man whose life she couldn't begin to understand. For every assumption she had made, every judgment she had passed, every time she had looked at someone struggling and decided they deserved it. She had been so certain, so smug, so wrong. The tears kept coming until there was nothing left. When Victoria finally lifted her head, the sun had moved across the sky. Hours had passed. Her face was swollen, her eyes raw. She picked up her phone and called the one person she thought might understand. Victoria. Her mother sounded confused. Is everything all right? Your father said you called earlier. Mom, I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen. She told her mother everything. The gala, the credit card, Marcus, the transactions, the letter. She didn't spare herself, didn't try to make her actions sound better than they were. She laid out every ugly detail and waited for the judgment she deserved. Her mother was quiet for a long time. Oh, Victoria, I know what you're going to say. Do you? That I was cruel, that I was thoughtless, that I treated another human being like entertainment. All of that is true. Her mother's voice was gentle but unflinching. But that's not what I was going to say. Then what? I was going to say that you have a choice now. You can let this moment pass. You can feel bad for a few days, then go back to brunch with Madison and forget any of this happened. Or you can let it change you. How do I change something like this? I don't know, sweetheart. That's something you have to figure out for yourself. But I do know that guilt without action is just self-indulgence. If you really want to make this right, you have to do something about it. Victoria thought about the folder on her coffee table, the receipts, the letter, the photograph of a little girl with her father's eyes. What if he doesn't want anything from me? What if he just wants me to leave him alone? Then you respect that, but you won't know unless you try. Victoria hung up and stared at her phone. Then she started making calls. It took 3 days to put together what she wanted. 3 days of research phone calls, meetings with lawyers and HR directors, and people whose job it was to make things happen when someone with Victoria's last name asked. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing. Not Madison, not Trent, not her father. This wasn't about them. This wasn't about making herself look good or earning forgiveness she hadn't earned. This was about doing something real. On the 4th day, she drove back to Dorchester. Marcus's building looked the same as it had before, worn tired, holding itself together through sheer stubbornness. Victoria parked her Mercedes down the block and walked to the front entrance. She didn't belong here. Every step she took reminded her of that. But she kept walking anyway. The intercom was broken, so she waited until someone came out and caught the door. 3rd floor, apartment 3B. She climbed the stairs, her heels echoing in the dim hallway. She knocked. Footsteps inside. The sound of a child's voice, then a deeper one answering. The lock clicked. Marcus opened the door. His expression shifted from confusion to recognition to something harder. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you." "We talked. I returned your card. I thought we were done." "We're not done." Victoria took a breath. "Please, 5 minutes." Marcus studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him step back. 5 minutes. The apartment was small, smaller than Victoria's closet, but it was clean, carefully maintained, filled with the evidence of a life built around love instead of luxury. Children's drawings on the refrigerator, a worn couch with a hand-knit blanket, framed photographs on every available surface. A woman with a warm smile appeared in most of them. Keisha. It had to be. "Lily's at school," Marcus said, noticing where Victoria was looking. "She won't be back for another 2 hours." "I didn't come to see Lily. I came to see you." Marcus crossed his arms. "So talk." "I read your letter. And you were right. About everything. I looked at you and saw a stereotype. I wanted you to fail. I wanted you to prove that—" Victoria stopped, swallowed. "That people like you don't deserve what people like me have." Marcus's expression didn't change. "I was wrong," Victoria continued. "I was cruel and thoughtless and wrong. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know an apology doesn't undo what I did. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what you've been carrying. I see who you really are." "Who am I?" "A father who's doing everything he can to keep a promise to his wife. A man who was handed unlimited money and spent every dollar on survival. Someone with more integrity than I've ever had." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you really here, Miss Hayes? People like you don't drive to Dorchester to apologize. They write checks and feel better about themselves. They don't—" He gestured at the apartment at the distance she'd traveled. "They don't do this. I have a job offer for you." Marcus went still. "Not charity," Victoria said quickly. "A real position. At my family's development company. We're starting a new division, affordable housing rehabilitation, taking neglected buildings in neighborhoods like this one and turning them into places where families can actually live. Safe places, decent places. We need someone who understands construction, who knows these communities, who can tell us when we're getting it wrong." "And you want me?" "I want someone who'll be honest with me. Someone who won't tell me what I want to hear just because of my last name. Based on our conversations, I think that's you." Marcus shook his head slowly. "You don't know anything about me. You met me once at a party you threw me out of. I know you're a former construction foreman. I know you left the industry 5 years ago. I'm guessing that's when Keisha got sick, or when Lily did. I know you've been working 2 jobs since then, trying to keep your head above water. I know you were about to lose your apartment before I gave you that card. You looked me up." "I did." That's invasive as hell." "Probably. But I needed to know if what I was offering made sense." "It does. You have the skills. You have the experience. And you have something no one else I could hire would have. You've lived the other side of this. You know what these families need because you've needed it yourself." Marcus turned away. He walked to the window and stood there looking out at the street below. "The salary is competitive," Victoria continued. "Benefits include full health coverage for you and Lily. And the schedule is flexible. I know you have medical appointments, school events. Whatever you need to take care of your daughter, we'll work around it." "And what do you get out of this? What do you mean?" Marcus turned back to face her. "I mean, what's your angle? You felt bad for a couple of days, so now you're offering me a job. That's not how the world works. People like you always have an angle." Victoria wanted to defend herself, wanted to insist that she was different, that she had changed, that her motives were pure. But she couldn't, because she didn't know if they were. "Maybe I want to feel better about myself," she admitted. "Maybe this is just a way to ease my guilt. I don't know. But I also know that Lily needs stability. She needs health insurance. She needs a father who isn't working himself to death trying to keep up with medical bills. She met his eyes. I can't undo what I did at that gala. I can't take back the joke I made or the assumptions I had. But I can offer you this. A real job, a real salary, a real chance. What you do with it is up to you. Marcus was quiet for a long time. I don't trust you, he finally said. I know. I don't trust anyone who looks at a man in a cheap suit and decides they know his whole story. I know that too. And if I take this job, if I let you into my life, into Lily's life, and you turn out to be exactly what I think you are. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Then you walk away, Victoria said. No strings, no consequences. I'll give you 6 months guaranteed regardless of whether you stay or not. If it doesn't work, if I turn out to be exactly what you think I am, you take the severance and never look back. Why would you do that? Because you were right, about all of it. And because... Victoria paused, thought about her father's voice on the phone, thought about the winter he'd almost lost everything. Because the only difference between you and me is that someone caught me when I fell. I had a grandfather with money to lend. You didn't have anyone. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. And I need to talk to Lily. This affects her too. Of course. Victoria turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. For what it's worth, I'm not doing this to make myself feel better. I'm doing this because you deserve better than what life has given you. You and Lily both. And because Keisha... Her voice caught. Because Keisha asked you to take care of your girl, I figure the least I can do is help you keep that promise. She left before Marcus could respond. In the hallway, walking down 3 flights of stairs that smelled like mildew and old cooking oil. Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not that Marcus would accept her offer, not that she could fix what she'd broken, but hope that maybe, just maybe, she was becoming someone worth being. Marcus stood at the window for a long time after Victoria left. He watched her walk to her Mercedes, watched her sit in the driver's seat without starting the engine, watched her put her head against the steering wheel, shoulders shaking. She was crying. He didn't know what to do with that, didn't know how to reconcile the woman at the gala, smiling champagne in hand, making him entertainment for her friends with the woman who had just stood in his apartment and offered him a lifeline. People didn't change. That was something Marcus had learned the hard way. People showed you who they were, and then they stayed that way. The rich stayed rich. The poor stayed poor. And the ones in between just kept scrambling, trying not to fall. But Victoria had cried. Not the pretty tears of someone performing emotion, but the ugly broken sobs of someone who had finally seen something they couldn't unsee. Marcus knew those tears. He had cried them himself 2 years ago, holding Keisha's hand while she slipped away. The front door opened. Small footsteps on the stairs. Then Lily's voice calling out as she climbed. Daddy! Daddy! I'm home! Marcus moved away from the window and opened the apartment door. Lily bounded up the last few steps, backpack bouncing face bright with the simple joy of being done with school for the day. Hey, baby girl! How was your day? Good. We learned about the solar system. Did you know Saturn has like 1 million rings? I did not know that. Lily dropped her backpack and wrapped her arms around his waist. Marcus held her close, breathing in the smell of her shampoo, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. Strong, steady, alive. Daddy. Yeah, baby. Are you sad? Marcus loosened his grip and looked down at his daughter. Her eyes, Keisha's eyes, searched his face with the perceptiveness of a child who had learned too young to watch for signs of trouble. Not sad, just thinking. About what? About a rich woman who offered me a job I don't trust. About your mother, who would know exactly what to do right now. About the future which feels more uncertain than ever. About how lucky I am, Marcus said instead. To have you. Lily smiled. I'm lucky too, Daddy, because I have you. She pulled away and headed for the kitchen. Can I have a snack? I'm starving. Apples are in the bowl, and don't forget, homework first. I know. Marcus watched her grab an apple and settle at the kitchen table, pulling out worksheets and pencils with the automatic routine of a kid who had learned that some things weren't negotiable. He thought about Victoria's offer, the salary, the benefits, the health coverage that would mean Lily's medications weren't a constant source of panic, the stability that would mean no more eviction notices, no more shut-off warnings, no more lying awake at night doing math that never added up. He thought about Keisha. What would she say if she were here? She'd say, "You're being stubborn," a voice in his head answered. She'd say, "Pride won't pay the bills." She'd say, "Lily needs you to be smart, not right." But she'd also say to be careful, to protect your daughter, to not let anyone hurt her the way Victoria hurt you at that gala. Marcus sat down across from Lily, watching her work through her math problems, with her tongue poking out the corner of her mouth, just like Keisha used to do. "Lily, can I ask you something?" If someone did something mean to Daddy, but then they said they were sorry and wanted to help, would you believe them? Lily looked up from her worksheet. Did someone do something mean to you? It's complicated. Mama always said that when people make mistakes, you have to give them a chance to fix it. But she also said you have to watch what they do, not just what they say. Lily tilted her head. Is this person trying to fix it? Marcus thought about Victoria in his apartment, about the tears in her car, about the folder full of receipts she'd never asked for the letter she didn't have to read. I think so, maybe. Then maybe you should let them try. Lily returned to her math. But if they're mean again, you don't have to give them more chances. That's what Mama said too. Marcus smiled despite himself. When did you get so smart? I was born this way, Daddy, obviously. She grinned at him, and for a moment, just a moment, Marcus saw Keisha looking back at him through their daughter's eyes. He made his decision. The phone call came 3 days later. Victoria was in her office staring at spreadsheets she couldn't focus on when her assistant knocked. There's a Marcus Johnson on line 2. He says you'll know what it's about. Victoria's heart lurched. She picked up the phone. This is Victoria. 6 months. Marcus's voice was steady. That's what you offered. 6 months guaranteed, regardless of whether it works out. That's right. And the health coverage starts immediately. First day. A pause. Then, Lily has a cardiology appointment next week. If I take this job, will she be covered for that? Yes, full coverage. No waiting period. Another pause. I still don't trust you, Marcus said. I probably never will. Not completely. You made me entertainment for your friends. You looked at me like I was less than human. I can't forget that. I wouldn't expect you to. But Lily needs this. She needs stability. She needs a father who can take care of her without working himself into the ground. And His voice caught just slightly. I made a promise to her mother. I told Keisha I'd take care of our girl. I've been failing at that for 2 years. Maybe this is my chance to finally get it right. Victoria gripped the phone tighter. So I'll take the job. 6 months. And if it works out, we keep going. And if it doesn't, if you turn out to be exactly who I think you are, then you walk away. No consequences. That was the deal. Yeah. Marcus exhaled. That was the deal. When can you start? Monday. Lily's appointment is Tuesday afternoon. I'll need to leave early. Take whatever time you need. Silence. Miss Hayes. Victoria. If we're going to be working together, you should call me Victoria. Victoria, then. He paused. This doesn't make us friends. It doesn't make us anything. It's just a job. I know. And if you ever treat me the way you treated me at that gala, I'm gone. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the benefits. I will walk out that door and never look back. Do you understand? I understand. Good. His voice softened, just barely. Then I'll see you Monday. The line went dead. Victoria set down the phone and leaned back in her chair. She had done it. She had actually done it. But as she sat there staring at the ceiling of her corner office, she knew that this was just the beginning. She had offered Marcus a job. She had offered him stability, security, a chance at something better. Now, she had to prove she meant it. 6 months. 6 months to show him that she wasn't the woman at the gala anymore. 6 months to earn a trust she had shattered before she even knew it existed. Victoria thought about Lily. About the photograph in the folder. About the little girl with her father's eyes who had no idea how close she had come to losing everything. She thought about Keisha. About a nurse who died in a waiting room while her daughter fought for her life. About the last words she had spoken to her husband. Take care of our girl. And she thought about Marcus. About a man who had been handed unlimited wealth and spent every dollar on survival. About the letter he had written, laying out his truth for a woman who didn't deserve to hear it. You wanted to prove something about people like me. I wanted to prove something too. Victoria opened her laptop and started typing. She had work to do. Monday came faster than Marcus expected. He stood outside the Hayes Development Building at 7:45 a.m., wearing the only decent shirt he owned, a blue button-down Keisha had bought him for their 5th anniversary. He had ironed it 3 times the night before, checking for wrinkles that weren't there, trying to calm nerves that wouldn't settle. Lily had watched him get ready that morning with wide eyes. You look fancy, Daddy. You think so? Mama would say you look handsome. Marcus had knelt down and pulled her close. You remember what we talked about Mrs. Okano's going to pick you up from school today? I might be a little late getting home. Because of your new job. That's right. Is it a good job? Marcus thought about Victoria, about the gala, about everything that had led to this moment. I hope so, baby. I really hope so. Now standing on the sidewalk with his coffee going cold in his hand, Marcus wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. You planning to come inside, or you just going to admire the architecture? He turned. Victoria stood behind him holding her own coffee, dressed in clothes that probably cost more than his monthly rent. But something was different about her. The sharpness he remembered from the gala was softer now. Uncertain. Wasn't sure if I should use the front door or the service entrance, Marcus said. Victoria flinched. That's not, I wouldn't. I know. Bad joke. They stood there for a moment, neither quite sure how to navigate this new territory. Look, Victoria said. I know this is awkward. I know you don't trust me. But can we at least try to start fresh? Not forget what happened. I'm not asking you to forget. Just start from here. Marcus studied her face. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept well, like something was weighing on her that she couldn't shake. I can try, he said. That's all I can promise. That's enough. She held the door open for him. Marcus walked into the building that would either change his life or prove that people like Victoria never really changed at all. The first week was brutal. Not because the work was hard. Marcus had worked construction for 15 years, had managed crews of 50 men, had built buildings from the ground up. He knew this industry better than most people in Victoria's office knew their own names. The hard part was everything else. The stares when he walked through the hallways, the whispers that stopped when he got close. The way people looked at him like he didn't belong, like he was a puzzle piece jammed into the wrong box. Who's the new guy? He heard someone ask on his 3rd day. Some charity case Victoria brought in. I heard she pulled him off the street. Marcus kept walking. He didn't turn around. He didn't say anything. But that night, sitting at his kitchen table while Lily did her homework, he almost called Victoria and quit. Daddy, what's 7 times 8? 56. Are you sure? Positive. Lily wrote the answer and moved on to the next problem. Marcus watched her, his phone in his hand. Victoria's number pulled up on the screen. One call. That's all it would take. One call and he could walk away from the whispers, the stares, the feeling of being an outsider in a world that didn't want him. But then, Lily looked up and smiled at him, and Marcus put the phone down. He wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing it for her. For the promise he'd made to Keisha. For the chance, however small, that maybe this time things would be different. He would give it 6 months. He had promised Victoria that much. After that, they would see. The project landed on Marcus's desk at the end of his second week. "Roxbury," Victoria said, dropping a thick folder in front of him. 12-unit building. Been abandoned for 8 years. The city wants to tear it down, but there's a community group fighting to save it. Marcus opened the folder. Building permits. Structural assessments. Financial projections that made his head spin. "What do you want me to do with this?" "I want your opinion. The numbers say we should tear it down and build new, but numbers don't always tell the whole story." Victoria sat down across from him. "You know that neighborhood. You know those people. What do you think?" Marcus flipped through the pages. The building was in rough shape. Roof damage, foundation issues, plumbing that probably hadn't been updated since the Carter administration. Any sane developer would demolish it and start over. But he knew that building. He'd driven past it 100 times on his way to Lily's school. He'd seen the community group's signs in the windows, their desperate attempts to save something that had been part of the neighborhood for generations. "Tear it down and you lose more than a building," Marcus said slowly. "You lose history. You lose the thing that holds that block together. Those people have been fighting for years to keep their neighborhood from being swallowed up by condos and coffee shops. You demolish that building, you're telling them their fight doesn't matter." Victoria leaned forward. "And if we rehabilitate it instead, then you're telling them someone finally listened." Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Draw up a new proposal. Full rehabilitation. I want to see what it would take to save that building instead of destroying it. That's going to cost more. I know. A lot more. I know that too." Marcus studied her face, looking for the catch, looking for the angle. But all he saw was something that might have been genuine interest. "Why do you care?" he asked. "About that building. About those people. 2 weeks ago, you didn't even know Roxbury existed." Victoria's expression flickered. Something crossed her face, guilt maybe, or shame. "2 weeks ago, I didn't know a lot of things," she said quietly. "I'm trying to learn." She stood up and walked to the door. Then she stopped. "Marcus, thank you for giving me a chance to prove I'm not who I was." She left before he could respond. The rehabilitation proposal took Marcus 3 weeks to complete. He worked on it during lunch breaks after Lily went to bed on weekends when she was at birthday parties or playdates. He called contractors he'd worked with years ago asking for favors, pulling in debts. He visited the Roxbury building himself, walking through the abandoned floors with a flashlight and a notebook, cataloging every problem, every possibility. The more he worked, the more he realized something surprising: he was enjoying himself. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was doing something that mattered. Not just scraping by, not just surviving, actually building something, creating something, making a difference. Keisha would have laughed at him. "Look at you," she would have said, "getting all excited about moldy buildings and budget spreadsheets. What happened to the man who said he'd never wear a tie?" He was wearing a tie now, every day. Lily had helped him pick it out, a blue one with small silver stripes that she said matched his eyes. "Mama would like it," she'd said. "She always said blue was your color." Marcus wore it to work every day after that. The presentation was scheduled for a Friday afternoon. Victoria had gathered the entire development team, project managers, financial analysts, architects, everyone who would have a say in whether the Roxbury building lived or died. Marcus stood at the front of the conference room, his proposal displayed on the screen behind him, his heart pounding in his chest. "The traditional approach would be demolition," he began. Tear down the existing structure, build new. It's faster, it's cleaner. On paper, it makes perfect financial sense. He clicked to the next slide. But paper doesn't tell you what happens to the community when you destroy their history. Paper doesn't tell you about the families who grew up in that building, the businesses that depended on it, the people who have been fighting for years to save it. He looked around the room. Skeptical faces, crossed arms, the body language of people who had already made up their minds. I'm proposing something different. Full rehabilitation. Preserve the existing structure. Update the systems. Create affordable housing for the families who need it most. And the cost, someone asked. Higher than demolition, significantly higher. Marcus pulled up the numbers. But the real value, isn't in the spreadsheet. It's in what we're telling that community. We're telling them that their neighborhood matters, that their history matters, that they matter. Silence. Then a man at the back of the room spoke up. A man Marcus hadn't noticed before. Older. Silver hair. The kind of suit that cost more than a car. That's a nice speech, the man said. Very inspiring. But this is a business, not a charity. We're not in the business of saving history. We're in the business of making money. Dad, Victoria started. No, Victoria. Let him answer. The man Richard Hayes Marcus realized Victoria's father leaned forward. Tell me, Mr. Johnson, why should this company invest millions of dollars in a building that any rational developer would tear down? Marcus felt every eye in the room turn to him. Felt the weight of judgment pressing down on his shoulders. Felt the familiar urge to back down, to apologize, to remember his place. But then he thought about Lily. About Keisha. About every person in Roxbury who had ever been told that their neighborhood wasn't worth saving. Because rational isn't always right, Marcus said. Because the numbers don't always tell the whole story. And because... He paused, looked directly at Richard Hayes. Because maybe it's time this company started measuring success by something other than profit margins. The room went dead silent. Richard Hayes stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then he turned to Victoria. Where did you find this one? At a charity gala, Victoria said quietly. He couldn't afford the $100 donation to get in. Something shifted in Richard's expression. Is that so? I gave him my credit card as a joke, told him to spend whatever he wanted for 24 hours. Victoria's voice was steady, but Marcus could see her hands trembling slightly under the table. I expected him to waste it. To prove that... She stopped. Swallowed. To prove my worst assumptions about people who didn't grow up like me. And what did he spend it on? His daughter's medical bills. Back rent. Utilities. Groceries. Victoria looked at Marcus. He spent $50,000 on survival. Not a single cent on anything frivolous. Not one. Richard Hayes was quiet for a long time. Then he stood up. Approve the rehabilitation project, he said to the room. Full funding. Whatever Mr. Johnson needs. He walked to the door, then paused. And Mr. Johnson, the next time someone tells you that you don't belong somewhere, remind them that I personally approved your hiring. That should shut them up. He left. The room erupted in murmurs. Victoria was staring at Marcus with something like wonder on her face. Did that just happen? Marcus asked. That just happened. Your father... My father hasn't approved a project that fast in 15 years. Victoria shook her head slowly. I don't know what you just did, but you got through to him. I've been trying to do that my whole life. Marcus looked at the approval notice on the screen. Looked at the building that would be saved instead of destroyed. Looked at the chance to do something real, something meaningful, something that would outlast him. I just told the truth, he said. Sometimes that's enough. That night, Marcus celebrated with Lily. They ordered pizza, a luxury they rarely allowed themselves, and watched her favorite movie together on the couch. Lily fell asleep halfway through her head on Marcus's shoulder, her small hand clutching the edge of his shirt. He carried her to bed, tucking her in with the same care he always used. Then he sat beside her in the dark, watching her breathe, watching her chest rise and fall with the steady rhythm that meant her heart was still working, still fighting. "We did it, Keisha," he whispered to the empty room. "We're going to be okay." He could almost hear her voice in response, could almost feel her hand on his shoulder, the warmth of her smile, the sound of her laugh. "I knew you would, baby. I always knew." Marcus stayed there for a long time, sitting in the dark with his sleeping daughter, letting himself believe for the first time in 2 years that maybe the worst was finally behind them. He didn't know that the real test was still coming. The call came 3 days later. Marcus was at his desk, working through construction timelines for the Roxbury project, when his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number. "Hello. Mr. Johnson, this is Dr. Patel from Boston Children's Hospital. I'm calling about Lily." The world stopped. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's fine right now, but her teacher called us about an incident at school. Lily collapsed during recess. She's conscious and stable, but we need you to come in immediately." Marcus was already standing, already grabbing his coat, already moving toward the door. "I'm on my way." He made it to the hospital in 20 minutes. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every slow driver felt like a personal attack. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely grip the steering wheel. Lily was in the pediatric wing, hooked up to monitors that beeped with the rhythm of her heart. She looked so small in the hospital bed, so fragile, so young. "Daddy." She reached for him as soon as he walked through the door. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fall down. I was just playing and then—" "Shh, baby. It's okay. It's not your fault." Marcus held her close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. Too fast. Too irregular. Wrong. Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Johnson, can I speak with you outside?" Marcus kissed Lily's forehead. "I'll be right back." "Okay. Don't go anywhere." "Daddy, that's not funny. I'm attached to like a million wires." He forced a smile. "There's my girl." In the hallway, Dr. Patel's face was grave. The collapse was caused by an arrhythmia. Her heart rhythm became irregular, which caused a temporary loss of blood flow to the brain. "She's stable now, but..." "But what?" "But we need to discuss her long-term care. The ventricular septal defect is progressing faster than we'd hoped. The medications are helping, but they're not enough anymore. She's going to need another surgery." Marcus felt the floor shift under his feet. "When?" "Within the next 6 months. Ideally sooner. The longer we wait, the more strain we put on her heart." "How much?" Dr. Patel hesitated. "How much?" Marcus repeated. "The surgery itself, plus hospital stay, plus post-operative care. We're looking at approximately $80,000. $80,000. Marcus had just started digging himself out of debt. Had just started to believe that maybe things were turning around. "And now, there are payment plans," Dr. Patel said quickly. "Financial assistance programs. We can work with your insurance to—" "I have insurance now, through my new job. That will help significantly. But there will still be out-of-pocket costs, co-pays, deductibles, things that insurance doesn't cover." Marcus nodded slowly. He felt numb, hollow. "Can I go back to my daughter now?" "Of course. We're going to keep her overnight for observation. You're welcome to stay with her." Marcus walked back into Lily's room. She was watching cartoons on the TV mounted to the wall, her small face illuminated by the flickering light. "Daddy, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, baby." "You're lying. You always get that look when you're lying." Marcus sat down on the edge of her bed, took her hand in his. "You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't lie to you." "What did the doctor say?" "He said you need another surgery, to fix your heart." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Like the one that made Mama go to heaven." Marcus's chest tightened. It's not the same baby. The doctors are much better now. They know exactly what to do. And I'm going to be right there the whole time. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. Lily squeezed his hand. I'm scared, Daddy. I know, baby. I'm scared too. But we have to be brave, right? That's what Mama would say. Marcus pulled her close, burying his face in her hair so she wouldn't see his tears. That's exactly what Mama would say. The call to Victoria was the hardest one Marcus had ever made. Not because he was asking for help. He had swallowed his pride before. He would do it again if it meant saving Lily. The hard part was admitting that the universe wasn't done testing him yet. That no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much progress he made, there was always another mountain waiting to crush him. Victoria answered on the second ring. Marcus, is everything okay? You left in such a rush. Lily collapsed at school. She's in the hospital. Silence. Oh God, is she? She's stable, for now. But she needs another surgery. The doctors say it can't wait much longer. What do you need? Whatever it is, name it. I need... Marcus stopped, tried to find the words. I don't know what I need. I don't know how to do this again. I thought we were finally getting somewhere. I thought things were finally going to be okay. And now... His voice broke. Now I'm sitting in a hospital room watching my daughter sleep, and I don't know how to save her. I don't know if I can save her, and I'm so tired, Victoria. I'm so goddamn tired of fighting. Silence on the line. Then, I'm coming. Right now. Don't move. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Stay there. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She was there in 20. Victoria walked into Lily's room quietly, like she was afraid of disturbing something sacred. She looked at the sleeping girl in the bed, at the monitors tracking her heartbeat, at the IV dripping steadily into her small arm. Then she looked at Marcus. Tell me what happened. He told her everything. The collapse, the arrhythmia, the surgery, the cost. Victoria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she pulled a chair next to his and sat down. I want to pay for it. No. Marcus. No, I didn't call you for money. I called you because... He stopped. Why had he called her? Because I needed someone to know. Someone who would understand. Someone who's seen you at your lowest and didn't look away. Marcus met her eyes. Yeah, something like that. Victoria reached out and took his hand. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle, that Marcus almost pulled away. I'm not offering charity, she said quietly. I'm offering partnership. You work for my company. You're leading our most important project. Lily's health is directly connected to your ability to do your job. It makes business sense to ensure she gets the care she needs. I know it's not about business. I know it's about a little girl who deserves a chance to grow up. I know it's about a father who has given everything he has and is terrified it still won't be enough. Victoria squeezed his hand. Let me help, please. Not because you owe me anything. Not because I'm trying to ease my guilt. Because Lily deserves better than what life has given her. And so do you. Marcus looked at his daughter. At the machines keeping her stable. At the future, hanging by a thread. I can't let you. You can. You have to. Because this isn't about pride anymore, Marcus. This is about your daughter's life. She was right. He knew she was right. But accepting help, real help, not the kind that came with strings attached or expectations of failure, was harder than anything Marcus had ever done. Okay, he whispered. Okay. Okay. But this doesn't make us even. This doesn't mean I owe you anything. I don't want you to owe me anything. Victoria stood up. I want you to let me be the person I'm trying to become. The person you started showing me I could be. She walked to the door, then stopped. Marcus. She's going to be okay. I don't know how I know that, but I do. She's going to be okay." She left. Marcus sat in the dark hospital room holding his daughter's hand, watching the monitor track each beat of her fragile heart. And for the first time in a very long time, he let himself believe that maybe Victoria was right. Maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The surgery was scheduled for 3 weeks out. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours of waiting, worrying, trying to hold himself together for Lily's sake. Marcus threw himself into work during the day. The Roxbury project demanded his attention. Contractor negotiations, permit applications, community meetings that ran late into the evening. He welcomed the distraction, welcomed anything that kept his mind from spiraling into the dark places it wanted to go. But at night, when Lily was asleep and the apartment was quiet, the fear came back. It always came back. He would sit at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of medical paperwork Dr. Patel had given him. Consent forms, pre-operative instructions, a detailed explanation of what would happen when they opened his daughter's chest and stopped her heart. Stopped her heart. The words haunted him. He couldn't read them without thinking of Keisha, without remembering that terrible day when the doctors had come out of the operating room with faces that told him everything before they said a word. "Mr. Johnson, there were complications." Marcus closed his eyes, pushed the memory away. This time would be different. It had to be different. The phone call from Madison came on a Tuesday evening. Victoria was at her apartment reviewing the financial projections Marcus had submitted for the Roxbury project when her phone lit up with a name she hadn't seen in weeks. She almost didn't answer. "Victoria, finally. I've been trying to reach you for days." "I've been busy." "Too busy for brunch. Too busy for your best friends." Madison's voice carried that particular mix of hurt and accusation that Victoria knew so well. "Trent and I were just saying we haven't seen you since that whole credit card thing." "That whole credit card thing," Victoria repeated flatly. "You know what I mean, the gala, the homeless guy, whatever happened with that. Anyway, did he max out your card buying lottery tickets?" Victoria felt something cold settle in her chest. "He wasn't homeless." "What?" "The man at the gala. His name is Marcus Johnson. He's a former construction foreman whose daughter has a heart condition. He was there trying to network, trying to find work because he's spent the last 2 years drowning in medical debt while raising a sick child alone." Silence on the line. "Victoria, what?" "His wife died, Madison, during their daughter's surgery. She was sitting in the waiting room praying her child would survive, and her heart just stopped. He held her hand while she died." "I didn't." "No, you didn't. Neither did I. We stood there making jokes about casinos and strip clubs while a grieving father walked out into the cold with the only chance he had to save his family." Madison's voice was smaller now, uncertain. "Victoria, you're scaring me." "Good. I scared myself too when I finally saw what I was." "What you were? What are you talking about?" Victoria took a breath. "I gave him that card because I wanted him to fail. I wanted proof that people like him, poor people struggling, people who weren't born with trust funds and penthouse apartments, didn't deserve what we have. I wanted to feel superior. I wanted to be right." "That's not..." "It's exactly what happened. Don't pretend you weren't thinking the same thing. Don't pretend we all weren't." The silence stretched. "He spent $50,000 on survival," Victoria continued. "Hospital bills, rent, utilities, medicine, groceries, not one luxury, not one treat, not even a $12 toy for his daughter because that money wasn't his to spend on frivolous things. Victoria, I hired him, at my company. He's leading our affordable housing project now. And his daughter Lily, she's having surgery in 3 weeks. Another heart surgery. The same kind that killed her mother." Madison was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked what happened, and because I need you to understand why I can't go back to being who I was. I can't sit at brunch and gossip about people I've never met. I can't laugh at jokes about poor people making poor choices. I can't pretend that the world I grew up in is the only world that matters. So what, you're some kind of saint now? One sob story, and suddenly you're Mother Teresa. Victoria flinched. I'm not a saint. I'm not even close. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to see people as people, not as punchlines. And what about us? Your actual friends. The people who've known you your whole life. I don't know, Madison. I honestly don't know. She hung up before Madison could respond. The confrontation with Trent came 3 days later. Victoria was leaving the office when she saw him in the lobby, leaning against the reception desk with the easy confidence of someone who had never been told no. There she is, the invisible woman. Trent, what are you doing here? Madison told me about your little breakdown on the phone. I thought I'd come see for myself if you've completely lost your mind. Victoria kept walking toward the door. Trent fell into step beside her. So you're really doing this, working with some random guy from a charity gala? Playing house with poor people? It's not playing house, it's my job. Your job is managing your family's money. Your job is showing up at the right parties and knowing the right people, not— He gestured vaguely. Not whatever this is. Victoria stopped walking, turned to face him. Did Madison tell you about his daughter? She mentioned something about a sick kid. Very sad. Very manipulative. Manipulative. Come on, Victoria. You're smarter than this. He shows up at a gala, can't afford the door fee, and somehow walks away with your credit card. And now he's got a job at your company, and you're paying for his kid's surgery. How do you not see what's happening here? Victoria felt her hands clench at her sides. What's happening here, Trent? He's using you. He saw a rich woman with a guilty conscience, and he played you like a violin. The sick daughter, the dead wife, the struggling single father routine. It's textbook con artist stuff. You don't know what you're talking about. I know a scam when I see one. No. Victoria's voice was harder now, sharper. You know what you want to see. You look at Marcus, and you see the same thing I saw at that gala, a stereotype. A character in a story you've already written. You don't see a person. You don't see a father who's sacrificed everything for his daughter. You see a threat to the worldview that keeps you comfortable. Trent's expression shifted. Something ugly flickered behind his eyes. You've changed, Victoria. I hope so. Not for the better. You've gone soft, bleeding heart. Next thing you know, you'll be voting Democrat and shopping at Walmart. Maybe I will. Trent stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. You know what, fine. Have your little social experiment. Play savior to the poor black man and his sick kid. But when it all falls apart, when he takes your money and disappears when you realize you've been played, don't come crying to us. I won't. We were your friends, Victoria. No. You were people I spent time with because we had the same zip code. That's not the same thing. Trent's jaw tightened. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but I'd rather regret trying to be better than regret staying the same. She walked out of the building without looking back. The night before the surgery, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat by Lily's bed watching her breathe, counting each rise and fall of her chest, like he was memorizing it. Tomorrow, doctors would put her under anesthesia. They would cut open her chest. They would stop her heart and try to fix it. And Marcus would sit in a waiting room just like he had 2 years ago and pray that this time the story ended differently. Daddy. Lily's voice was soft, sleepy. I'm here, baby. Why are you still awake? Just thinking. Lily patted the space beside her. Come lay down. You need sleep too. Marcus climbed onto the small bed, wrapping his arm around his daughter. She nestled against him, her head on his chest, her hand finding his and holding tight. Are you scared about tomorrow? She asked. A little. Are you? Yeah. She was quiet for a moment. But I was thinking about what Mama would say. What would she say? She would say that the doctors are really smart and they're going to take good care of me. And she would say that you're going to be right there waiting when I wake up. And she would say, Lily's voice caught. She would say that even if something bad happens, we're going to be okay, because we have each other. Marcus pulled her closer. Your mama was the smartest person I ever knew. I know. That's why I try to remember what she would say when I'm scared. Lily looked up at him. Do you still talk to her daddy in your head? Every day, baby, every single day. What do you say? Marcus thought about all the one-sided conversations he'd had with Keisha since she died. All the times he'd asked for her guidance, her strength, her forgiveness for not being able to do this as well as she would have. I tell her about you, he said. About how smart you are, how brave, how much you remind me of her every day. What does she say back? She says she's proud of you. She says she's watching over you. She says... His voice broke. She says she loves you more than anything in the world, and that will never change, no matter what. Lily was quiet for a long time. Daddy, if something happens tomorrow, nothing's going to happen. But if it does, I need you to know something. Marcus couldn't speak, could barely breathe. I need you to know that you're the best daddy in the whole world, and that Mama was really lucky to have you, and that I'm really lucky too. Lily squeezed his hand. And if I go to heaven to be with Mama, I don't want you to be sad forever. I want you to be happy sometimes too. Okay. Marcus pulled his daughter close and held her like he would never let go. Nothing's going to happen, he whispered into her hair. You're going to be fine. The doctors are going to fix your heart, and then we're going to go home, and everything's going to be okay. Promise. I promise. It was a promise he had no right to make, a promise the universe might not let him keep. But he made it anyway, because that's what fathers do. The morning of the surgery came too fast and too slow at the same time. Marcus held Lily's hand as they wheeled her toward the operating room. She was already drowsy from the pre-operative sedation, but she kept her eyes open, kept her gaze fixed on his face. I'll be right here when you wake up, Marcus said. Right here. The first thing you'll see is my face, okay? Your ugly face, Lily mumbled, and even now, even in this moment, she was trying to make him smile. That's right. My ugly face. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, baby. More than anything. The doors swung open. The surgical team was waiting. A nurse touched Marcus's arm. This is as far as you can go, Mr. Johnson. He kissed Lily's forehead, squeezed her hand one last time. Be brave, baby girl. You too, Daddy. And then she was gone. Through the doors, into the operating room. Out of his hands, and into the hands of strangers who held her life in their latex-gloved fingers. Marcus stood in the hallway, staring at the closed doors, feeling like his heart had been wheeled away along with his daughter. Mr. Johnson. He turned. Victoria was standing behind him, holding 2 cups of coffee. I didn't know if you wanted company, she said. But I couldn't stay away. Marcus looked at her. At the woman who had started all of this with a cruel joke at a charity gala. At the woman who had somehow become the closest thing to a friend he had. Thank you, he said. For what? For being here. You didn't have to be. I know, but I wanted to. Victoria handed him a coffee. How long is the surgery supposed to take? 4 to 6 hours, depending on what they find when they open her up. And then we wait. Recovery. Observation. If everything goes well, she could be home in a week. If everything goes well? Yeah, if. They walked to the waiting room together. Marcus sat down in one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs, staring at the wall, trying not to think about what was happening behind those operating room doors. Victoria sat beside him. She didn't say anything, didn't try to fill the silence with meaningless comfort. She just sat there present, waiting alongside him. An hour passed, then 2. Marcus's coffee went cold in his hands. He couldn't drink it, couldn't do anything except sit and wait and pray. Can I ask you something? Victoria said finally. Go ahead. What was Keisha like? You've mentioned her, but I feel like I don't really know who she was. Marcus was quiet for a moment. She was the strongest person I ever met. Not physically, she was actually pretty small. But inside, her spirit, she was unbreakable. How did you meet? At a community center in Roxbury. I was teaching a workshop on home repairs basic stuff, fixing leaky faucets, patching drywall. She showed up because her apartment had a leak she couldn't afford to fix. Marcus smiled at the memory. She was so determined to learn how to do it herself. Wouldn't let me help her. Had to figure it out on her own. That was Keisha. Never wanted anyone to do anything for her that she could do herself. And you fell in love with her. I fell in love with her about 5 minutes after I met her. Took me 6 months to convince her to go on a date with me. 6 months? She said she didn't have time for romance. She was working double shifts as a nurse taking care of her mother, who had Alzheimer's, volunteering at a free clinic on weekends. She had her whole life planned out, and some construction worker with a tool belt wasn't part of the plan. What changed her mind? Marcus's smile faded. Her mother died. It was sudden, a stroke in the middle of the night. Keisha called me because she didn't have anyone else. I drove over there at 3 in the morning and just sat with her. Didn't say anything. Didn't try to fix anything. Just sat there while she cried. Victoria was quiet. After that, she started letting me in. Little by little. She said I was the first person who had ever just been there for her without wanting something in return. Marcus looked down at his hands. We got married a year later. Had Lily 2 years after that. And then everything fell apart. No, everything was perfect. For 5 years, everything was perfect. And then Lily got sick. And then Keisha died. And then... His voice cracked. And then I had to figure out how to keep going without her. Victoria reached over and put her hand on his arm. She sounds incredible. She was. She really was. And Lily, she has her mother in her. I can see it. That strength, that determination. Marcus nodded. That's what keeps me going. Every time I look at Lily, I see Keisha looking back at me. It's like a piece of her is still here, still with us. She is still with you. In Lily. In the person you've become. In everything you do. Marcus looked at Victoria. Really looked. Why are you here, the truth? Victoria met his eyes. Because 2 months ago, I was someone I'm ashamed of. I was cruel and thoughtless and blind to everything outside my own little world. And then I met you. And you showed me without even trying that everything I believed about the world was wrong. I didn't show you anything. You saw what you wanted to see. No, I saw what was actually there. I saw a man who had every reason to hate me, every reason to prove my worst assumptions right, and instead... Victoria shook her head. Instead, you proved that character has nothing to do with circumstances. That being poor doesn't make someone less than. That the measure of a person isn't what they have, it's what they do with it. She squeezed his arm. I'm here because your daughter is fighting for her life, and you shouldn't have to face that alone. I'm here because you've carried this weight by yourself for too long. I'm here because... Her voice wavered. Because I want to be someone worth being, and being here right now feels like a step in that direction. Marcus didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. He just nodded, and let her hand stay on his arm, and tried to believe that maybe for once he didn't have to carry the weight alone. The surgeon came out at the 4-hour mark. Marcus saw him coming down the hallway. Dr. Okonkwo, a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands, and felt his entire body go rigid. He couldn't read the doctor's expression, couldn't tell if the news was good or bad or somewhere in between. Victoria stood up beside him. Mr. Johnson. Dr. Okonkwo stopped in front of them. The surgery went well. Marcus's knees buckled. He grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. She's okay. She's stable. The repair was successful. We were able to close the ventricular septal defect completely. Her heart rhythm is normal. Blood flow is normal. She's in recovery now." Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The tears came without warning, hot and fast and uncontrollable. "Can I see her?" "She's still under anesthesia. She'll wake up in about an hour. But yes, as soon as she's conscious, you can see her." "Thank you." Marcus grabbed the doctor's hand, shaking it with a desperation that surprised them both. "Thank you. Thank you for saving my daughter." Dr. Okonkwo smiled gently. "Thank the team. And thank your daughter, she's a fighter. She made our job easy." The doctor walked away. Marcus stood in the middle of the waiting room, tears streaming down his face, feeling like he had just been given his life back. Victoria touched his shoulder. "She's okay," she said. "Marcus, she's okay." He turned and looked at her, at the woman who had started as an enemy and become what a friend. A partner. Something he didn't have a name for. "She's okay," he repeated. And then he did something he hadn't done with anyone since Keisha died. He let someone else hold him while he cried. Lily woke up an hour later just like the doctor promised. Marcus was at her bedside when her eyes fluttered open. Her gaze was foggy, confused, but when she saw his face, she smiled. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, baby." "Did they fix my heart?" "They fixed your heart." "Does that mean I'm not sick anymore?" Marcus took her hand. "It means you're getting better. It means we have a lot of good years ahead of us. It means—" His voice broke. "It means I get to watch you grow up." Lily's smile widened. "I told you it would be okay." "You did. You were right. I'm always right. You should know that by now." Marcus laughed through his tears. "Yeah, baby. I should definitely know that by now." Lily's eyes moved past him, landing on someone standing in the doorway. "Who's that?" Marcus turned. Victoria was hovering at the threshold, uncertain whether she should enter. "That's Victoria," Marcus said. She's a friend." "Your friend?" "Yeah, my friend." Lily studied Victoria with the frank assessment of an 8-year-old who had learned to read people better than most adults. "Come in," she said. "You can come in." Victoria stepped into the room slowly. "Hi, Lily. I'm so glad you're okay." "Thanks. Are you the lady who gave my daddy the credit card?" Victoria's face went pale. "He told you about that?" "He tells me everything. He said you were kind of mean at first, but then you got better." Marcus winced. "Lily." "It's okay," Victoria said. "She's right. I was mean. I was very mean. But your daddy helped me see that I needed to change." Lily considered this. "My mama always said that people can change if they really want to. Do you really want to?" "I really do." "Then I guess you're okay." Lily yawned. "I'm sleepy, Daddy." "Rest, baby. I'll be right here when you wake up." "Promise." "Promise." Lily closed her eyes. Within seconds, her breathing had slowed into the steady rhythm of sleep. Marcus watched her for a long moment. Then he looked at Victoria. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yeah, I do." He paused. "You didn't have to be here. You didn't have to pay for any of this. You didn't have to—" He stopped, tried to find the right words. "You didn't have to care, but you did. And I'm grateful." Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "When I gave you that card at the gala, I thought I was proving something about you. About people like you. I thought I was showing the world that poor people couldn't be trusted, that they'd waste every opportunity they were given." She looked at Lily sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed. "Instead, you proved something about me. About people like me. You showed me that wealth doesn't make someone good, and poverty doesn't make someone bad. You showed me that the measure of a person isn't what they have, it's what they do when they have nothing. It's who they are when no one's watching." She met Marcus's eyes. You're a better person than I've ever been, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of knowing you." Marcus didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and turned back to watch his daughter breathe, and let himself believe for the first time in 2 years that maybe the worst was finally truly behind them. The recovery took longer than expected. Lily was strong, but her body needed time to heal. 2 weeks in the hospital turned into 3. Physical therapy, cardiac rehabilitation, endless tests and monitoring and adjustments to her medication. Marcus stayed with her as much as he could, sleeping in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed, working on his laptop during the hours when she rested. The Roxbury project continued to demand attention, but Victoria handled what she could, keeping him updated through daily calls and emails. "The permits came through," she told him one afternoon. "We can break ground next month." "That's good news. It's your news, your project. When you're ready to come back, it'll be waiting for you." "If I come back?" "When?" Victoria's voice was firm. "When you come back. This isn't optional, Marcus. You're the reason that project exists. The community is counting on you." Marcus looked at Lily, who was coloring in a book Victoria had brought her the day before. "I'll come back," he said. "Just give me time." "All the time you need. We're not going anywhere." 3 weeks after the surgery, Lily came home. Marcus carried her up the 3 flights of stairs to their apartment, ignoring her protests that she could walk by herself. She was getting stronger every day, but he wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "Daddy put me down. I'm not a baby." "You're my baby. That's never going to change." "Ugh, you're so embarrassing." He laughed. God, it felt good to laugh. Inside the apartment, everything looked the same. The worn furniture, the children's drawings on the refrigerator, the photographs of Keisha smiling from every surface. But something had changed. Something fundamental. Something Marcus couldn't quite name. "Daddy." Lily was looking at Keisha's picture on the mantel. "Do you think Mama knows I'm okay?" Marcus knelt down beside her. "I think Mama knows everything. I think she's been watching over you this whole time, making sure the doctors did their job right." "Do you think she's proud of me?" "Baby, she's so proud of you she probably won't shut up about it for the rest of eternity." Lily giggled. "Mama never shut up about anything." "That's true. She definitely had opinions about everything." They stood there together, looking at the photograph of the woman they both loved and lost. "I miss her," Lily said quietly. "I miss her too. But we're going to be okay. Right, Daddy?" Marcus put his arm around his daughter and pulled her close. "Yeah, baby. We're going to be okay." And for the first time since Keisha died, he actually believed it. 1 year later, Marcus stood in front of the Roxbury building and barely recognized it. The structure that had been abandoned, crumbling, written off by every developer in Boston, was now alive. Fresh paint-covered walls that had been covered in graffiti. New windows reflected the morning sun. A sign above the entrance read, "Keisha Johnson Community Housing," in letters that Marcus still couldn't look at without his throat tightening. Victoria had surprised him with the name. Hadn't asked permission. Hadn't warned him. Just unveiled it at the dedication ceremony 3 months ago in front of the community members who would soon call this building home. "It should carry her name," Victoria had said when Marcus asked her why. "She's the reason any of this exists. She's the reason you became who you are. She's the reason you showed me who I could become." Marcus hadn't been able to respond. Hadn't been able to do anything except stand there staring at his wife's name on the building they had saved together. Now, 3 months after that ceremony, the first families were moving in. Marcus watched a young mother carry boxes up the front steps, her 2 children running ahead of her, their laughter echoing off the newly painted walls. An elderly man in a wheelchair was being helped through the accessible entrance by his grandson. A woman about Marcus's age stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the building with tears streaming down her face. He walked over to her. "You okay?" She startled, then wiped her eyes quickly. I'm sorry. I never thought. Never thought what? I grew up here, in this building. Apartment 4B. My grandmother lived here until she died. When they abandoned it, I thought I'd lost that piece of my family forever. She looked at Marcus. And now it's back. It's different, but it's back. It's better than it was before. It is. It really is. She extended her hand. I'm Patricia. Patricia Williams. I'm moving into 4B next week. Marcus? Marcus Johnson. Her eyes widened. You're Marcus Johnson, the one who designed all this, the one who fought to save the building. I didn't do it alone. That's not what I heard. I heard you stood up in a room full of rich people and told them that our neighborhood mattered, that our history mattered, that we mattered. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I just told the truth. Sometimes the truth is the bravest thing you can tell. Patricia squeezed his hand. Thank you. From me. From my grandmother. From everyone who ever called this building home. She walked toward the entrance, pausing to touch the wall like she was greeting an old friend. Marcus watched her go, feeling something warm spread through his chest. This was what it was supposed to feel like. This was what Keisha had always talked about, doing work that mattered, building things that lasted, leaving the world a little better than you found it. He wished she could see it. She would be proud, you know. Marcus turned. Victoria was standing behind him, holding 2 cups of coffee, dressed in clothes that were far more casual than anything she would have worn a year ago. Jeans, a simple blouse, sneakers instead of heels. She looked different, softer, more real. I know, Marcus said, taking the coffee she offered. Do you? Because you've had that look on your face all morning. The one that says, you're not sure you deserve any of this. Maybe I don't. Marcus. Victoria stepped closer. Look at that building. Look at those families. Look at what you created out of nothing but determination and a refusal to give up. If anyone deserves this, it's you. I didn't create it alone. No, you didn't. But you were the one who believed it was possible when everyone else said it wasn't. You were the one who stood up to my father and told him that profit margins aren't the only measure of success. You were the one who... She stopped, smiled. You were the one who changed everything. Marcus sipped his coffee, watching more families arrive. You changed too. I had help. We both did. They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the building come alive with new residents, new hope, new beginnings. Lily's school play is tonight, Marcus said after a while. I remember. She's been practicing her lines all week. She called me yesterday to make sure I was still coming. She did. 3 times. She's very particular about her audience. Marcus smiled. She gets that from her mother. Keisha never did anything without an audience. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you, eventually. After she spent about 6 months making sure you weren't going to hurt me. Victoria laughed. That sounds about right. From what you've told me, she didn't trust easily. She didn't. But when she did trust someone, she was loyal until the end. Beyond the end. Marcus looked at the building, at Keisha's name above the door. I think she'd trust you now. I think she'd see what I see. What do you see? Someone who's trying. Someone who made mistakes and is actually doing something about it. Someone who... He paused. Someone worth trusting. Victoria's eyes glistened. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. They laughed together, and Marcus realized with a start that this was what friendship felt like. Real friendship. The kind that grew out of honesty instead of convenience. He hadn't had that with anyone except Keisha in a very long time. The school auditorium was packed. Marcus sat in the 3rd row, saving the seat beside him that Victoria had claimed weeks ago. Parents filled the rows around him, cameras ready, programs clutched in eager hands. The energy in the room was electric with anticipation. Victoria slid into the seat just before the lights dimmed. Made it. Barely. Traffic was terrible, and I had to stop and get these. She pulled out a bouquet of flowers, purple roses, Lily's favorite. You remembered. Of course I remembered. She told me approximately 73 times that purple roses were the only acceptable flower for a star of her caliber. Marcus shook his head, smiling. She's going to be impossible after tonight. She's already impossible. That's what makes her perfect. The curtain rose. The play began. It was a simple production, a children's adaptation of a fairy tale about a princess who saved her kingdom, not with magic or beauty, but with kindness and courage. Lily played the lead. She had rehearsed her lines so many times that Marcus could recite them in his sleep. But watching her now standing on that stage under the lights, speaking her words with confidence and joy, Marcus felt like he was seeing her for the first time. She was so alive, so healthy, so full of everything Keisha had poured into her during those first 6 years of her life. 2 years ago, Marcus had sat in a hospital room watching monitors track his daughter's heartbeat, wondering if he would ever see her grow up. Now she was playing a princess, running across the stage, laughing with her castmates, alive and whole and beautiful. The tears came without warning. Victoria reached over and took his hand. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. She just held on while Marcus cried quiet tears of gratitude for everything he had almost lost and everything he had been given. The play ended. The audience erupted in applause. Lily took her bow with the confidence of someone who had always known she was destined for greatness. After the show, Marcus found her backstage still in her princess costume, surrounded by admirers. "Daddy!" She launched herself into his arms. Did you see me? I saw you, baby. You were incredible. I know, I'm very talented, and humble." "What's humble mean?" "It means never mind. It's not important." Victoria appeared behind them, holding out the purple roses. "For the star." Lily's eyes went wide. "You remembered? How could I forget? You only told me about 1,000,000 times." Lily took the flowers and buried her face in them, inhaling deeply. Then she looked up at Victoria with the earnest intensity that only children could manage. "Are you going to come to dinner with us? Daddy said we could go to the fancy restaurant tonight because I was so good." Marcus started to say something, but Victoria was already nodding. "I would love to." "Good. Because I have a lot to tell you about the play, and Daddy doesn't understand the artistic stuff. He thinks the costumes just appeared by magic." "Someone had to make them," Marcus protested. "The costume fairies made them, obviously." Victoria laughed. "Obviously." They walked out of the auditorium together, Marcus and Victoria and Lily, who chattered the entire way about her performance, her costume, her plans for future theatrical glory. Marcus listened with half an ear, his attention caught by something else. For the first time in 2 years, he didn't feel alone. The restaurant was nicer than anywhere Marcus would have chosen on his own, but Lily had been specific about her requirements. White tablecloths, candles, a menu with food she couldn't pronounce. "This is what princesses eat," she explained when Marcus raised an eyebrow at her order. "I did research." "You researched what princesses eat." "I'm very thorough." Victoria hid her smile behind her menu. "She's got you there." The food arrived. Lily attacked her pasta with enthusiasm, while Marcus and Victoria talked about the Roxbury project, about work, about everything and nothing. It felt natural, easy, like they had been doing this for years instead of months. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said when Lily was distracted by her dessert. "Go ahead." "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't given you that card? If you'd just walked out of the gala that night and we'd never seen each other again?" Marcus considered the question. "I used to. A lot. I used to lie awake wondering what I would have done if that hospital bill had stayed unpaid. If we'd been evicted. If—" He stopped. "But I don't think about it much anymore." Why not? Because it doesn't matter. What happened happened, and somehow against all odds we ended up here. He looked at Lily, who had chocolate on her chin and joy in her eyes. We ended up okay. Better than okay. Yeah, better than okay. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I still think about who I was that night. The person who handed you that card as a joke. The person who expected you to fail. She shook her head. I don't know how you forgave me. I didn't. Victoria looked up sharply. Not at first, Marcus continued. For a long time I didn't forgive you at all. I took the job because Lily needed it. I worked with you because I had to, but I didn't forgive you. What changed? Marcus thought about the hospital. About Victoria sitting beside him in the waiting room, holding his hand, staying with him through the longest hours of his life. You showed up, he said simply. Not with money, not with offers or solutions, just with yourself. You sat with me while my daughter was in surgery, and you didn't try to fix anything. You were there. Victoria's eyes were bright with tears. That's what Keisha did for me when her mother died, Marcus said. She let me just be there. No expectations, no agenda, just presence. He met Victoria's gaze. That's when I knew you had actually changed. That's when I started to forgive you. I'm still working on it. Marcus smiled slightly. But I think we're getting there. Victoria laughed, wiping her eyes. I'll take it. You should. I don't give out forgiveness easily. I've noticed. Lily looked up from her dessert chocolate smeared across her cheeks. Why is Victoria crying? Because she's happy, Marcus said. That's weird. When I'm happy, I smile. Or I dance. One time I did a cartwheel. Different people express happiness differently, baby. I guess. Lily studied Victoria with the penetrating gaze of an 8-year-old. You're not going to leave, right? Some of Daddy's friends leave and then he gets sad. I don't want you to leave. Victoria's breath caught. I'm not going anywhere, Lily. I promise. Good. Because I like you. And Daddy likes you. And I think Mama would like you too if she was here. The table went quiet. Marcus looked at his daughter, this small, fierce, impossible person who had survived so much and still found room in her heart for hope. I think you're right, baby, he said. I think Mama would like her too. The drive home was quiet. Lily fell asleep in the back seat. Her princess costume wrinkled, her purple roses clutched in her lap. Marcus drove slowly, not wanting to wake her, not wanting the evening to end. Victoria sat in the passenger seat looking out the window at the Boston streets sliding past. Can I tell you something? She said softly. Always. A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be here driving through Dorchester after a school play covered in chocolate stains from an 8-year-old actually happy, I would have said they were crazy. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else. She turned to look at him. You changed my life, Marcus. Not just my perspective or my priorities, my actual life. The person I am today is different than the person I was, and it's because of you. I didn't do anything. You did everything. You showed me what character looks like. You showed me what sacrifice looks like. You showed me what love looks like. Her voice wavered. You showed me what it means to be a person worth being. Marcus didn't know how to respond, so he just drove. Through the streets of Dorchester, past the building that now bore Keisha's name, toward the apartment where he and Lily had built a life out of the wreckage of everything they'd lost. When they arrived, Victoria helped him carry Lily upstairs. The girl was dead weight exhausted from her performance, from the excitement, from the simple joy of being 9 years old and healthy and loved. Marcus laid her in her bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. Victoria stood in the doorway watching. Good night, princess, Marcus whispered. Night, Daddy. Lily mumbled without opening her eyes. Night, Victoria. Good night, sweetheart. They crept out of the room, closing the door softly behind them. In the living room, Marcus and Victoria stood facing each other, neither quite sure what to say. "Thank you," Marcus said finally. "For tonight. For everything. You keep thanking me. You keep deserving it." Victoria smiled. "I should go. It's late." "Yeah, it is." Neither of them moved. Marcus. Victoria. They both laughed awkwardly. "You first," Victoria said. Marcus took a breath. "I just wanted to say what Lily said at dinner, about you not leaving. I want you to know I feel the same way. I don't want you to leave either." Victoria's expression softened. "I already told her I wasn't going anywhere." "I know. I just wanted to say it myself." He paused. "Whatever this is, whatever we are, I'm glad you're in my life. In Lily's life. I'm glad we found our way to—" He gestured vaguely. "To here." "Me too." Victoria stepped closer. "More than I can say." She reached out and took his hand, squeezed it once. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Victoria." She left. Marcus stood at the window watching her walk to her car, watching her drive away, watching the taillights disappear around the corner. Then he turned and looked at the photograph of Keisha on the mantel. "I think she's going to be okay," he said quietly. "I think we all are." Keisha smiled back at him from the photograph, frozen in a moment of perfect happiness. Marcus smiled too. For the first time in a very long time, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. 6 months after the school play, Marcus got the call. He was at the Roxbury building checking on a maintenance issue in one of the units when his phone rang. "Mr. Johnson, this is Dr. Patel." Marcus's heart stopped. "Is Lily okay?" "She's fine. Better than fine, actually. That's why I'm calling." Dr. Patel's voice was warm. "We just got her latest test results back. Her heart function is completely normal. No residual defects, no complications. She's officially in the clear." Marcus sat down on the nearest step. "What does that mean?" "It means she's healthy, Mr. Johnson. Fully healthy. She can run, play, do everything any other child her age can do. We'll continue monitoring her, of course, but barring any unforeseen issues." Dr. Patel paused. "She's going to live a long, full life." Marcus couldn't speak. The tears were coming too fast. "Mr. Johnson, are you there?" "I'm here," he managed. "I'm here. I wanted to tell you personally. I've been treating Lily since she was 3 years old. I was there when her mother died. I know what this family has been through." Dr. Patel's voice thickened. "This is the call I've been waiting years to make. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much." Marcus hung up and sat on the stairs of the building that bore his wife's name, crying tears he had been holding back for 6 years. He called Victoria first. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Nothing's wrong." He could barely get the words out. "Everything's right. Lily's heart, the tests, she's healthy. Completely healthy." Victoria screamed so loud that Marcus had to pull the phone away from his ear. Oh my God, Marcus." "I know. This is incredible. This is—" She was crying now too. "Can I come over? Can I see you? Can I—" "Get Lily from school. I'll meet you at home." He ended the call and looked up at the building, at Keisha's name above the door. "She made it," he whispered. "Our baby made it." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees that lined the street. Marcus closed his eyes and let himself imagine that it was Keisha reaching across whatever distance separated them, letting him know she had heard, letting him know she had always been watching. Lily handled the news with characteristic drama. "Does this mean I can try out for soccer?" she demanded as soon as Marcus told her. "It means you can try out for anything you want. And I can run at recess without Mrs. Patterson making me sit down." "Yes. And I can go on the roller coasters at the amusement park." "Yes, Lily. And I can—" "Baby." Marcus knelt down in front of her. You can do anything, everything. Whatever you want. Your heart is healthy. You're going to be okay. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she threw herself into his arms. I knew it, she whispered. I knew I was going to be okay. Mama told me. Marcus held her tight. Mama told you. In my dreams. She comes to visit me sometimes. She told me not to be scared. She told me everything was going to work out. Lily pulled back and looked at him with eyes that were suddenly much older than 9. She told me to take care of you, Daddy. She said you needed me to be strong. Marcus's chest ached. You are strong, baby, the strongest person I know. I know. I get it from Mama. Lily smiled. And from you. Victoria arrived an hour later with balloons and cake, and the energy of someone who had driven well above the speed limit. I couldn't wait, she said breathlessly. I had to celebrate. This is everything. They ate cake in the small living room of the apartment in Dorchester. Lily got frosting everywhere. Victoria laughed until she cried. Marcus sat back and watched them, his daughter, and this woman who had started as an enemy and become family. To Lily, Victoria said, raising her plastic cup of juice. The bravest princess I know. To Lily, Marcus echoed. To me, Lily shouted, and they all laughed. Later, after Lily had gone to bed with a sugar-induced smile on her face, Marcus and Victoria sat on the worn couch together. Can you believe it? Victoria said. After everything, she's healthy. She's actually healthy. I believe it. I've been believing it for a year now, ever since the surgery. Marcus looked at the photograph of Keisha on the mantel. I think Keisha made sure of it. I think she's been watching over Lily this whole time, making sure nothing bad happened. You really believe that? I have to. It's the only thing that makes sense. He turned to Victoria. 2 years ago, I was ready to give up. The debt, the eviction, Lily's medical bills. I couldn't see a way forward. And then you handed me that credit card. As a joke. As a joke. The cruelest joke I'd ever been part of. Marcus shook his head. But somehow it became the thing that saved us. You became the thing that saved us. Marcus. I'm not saying you're a hero. You're not. You were terrible that night, and we both know it. He smiled slightly. But you tried to make it right. You actually tried. And that matters. That matters more than the mistake ever did. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I think about that night a lot, she said. About who I was. About who I might still be if you hadn't shown me something different. She met his eyes. I owe you everything, Marcus. My whole life, everything good about it now started with you. It started with a credit card. It started with a man who refused to be what I expected him to be. A man who had every reason to hate me and chose to teach me instead. Victoria reached out and took his hand. I will never be able to repay what you've given me. I don't want you to repay anything. I know. That's what makes you who you are. They sat there in the quiet apartment holding hands, surrounded by photographs of Keisha and drawings by Lily and evidence of a life rebuilt from the ruins of tragedy. What happens now? Victoria asked. Now. Marcus looked around the room, at the life he had built, at the future stretching out before him. Now we keep going. We finish the Roxbury project. We start the next one. We watch Lily grow up and become whoever she's going to become. We live. Together, Marcus considered the word, its weight, its implications. Yeah, he said finally. Together. Victoria smiled, and Marcus realized that somewhere along the way between the cruelty and the forgiveness, the despair and the hope, the loss and the rebuilding, he had found something he thought he'd lost forever. He had found a reason to believe in tomorrow. The dedication plaque was installed on a Tuesday morning. Marcus stood in front of the Roxbury building, the building that would house 47 families, all of them people who had been told their neighborhood didn't matter, and read the words he had helped write. The Keisha Johnson Community Housing Project, built with love, saved with courage, dedicated to everyone who was told they didn't deserve a second chance and proved them wrong. Lily stood beside him holding his hand. "That's Mama's name?" she said. "That's right. So everybody will remember her. Everybody who walks through these doors will see her name. They'll know that someone loved this neighborhood enough to fight for it. They'll know that even after she was gone, she was still making a difference." Lily thought about this. "I want to make a difference too," she said. "When I grow up." "You already do, baby, every single day." Victoria joined them, standing on Lily's other side. "Ready?" she asked. Marcus looked at the building, at his daughter, at the woman who had become part of their family. "Ready." They walked toward the entrance together, toward the families waiting inside, toward the future they had built together out of nothing but hope and hard work and the refusal to give up. Behind them, the sun rose over Boston, casting long shadows across the streets of Dorchester. And on the wall of the building, Keisha Johnson's name gleamed in the morning light. A reminder, a promise, a testament to what was possible when one person decided to prove the world wrong. Marcus had been given 24 hours to spend like the other half lived. He had used them to save his family. And in doing so, he had saved someone else too. That was the truth of it, the simple, irreducible truth. Money had never been the measure of a man. Character was. Love was. The choices made when no one was watching and everything was on the line, those were what defined a person. Victoria Hayes had learned that lesson the hard way. Marcus Johnson had lived it his entire life. And Lily would carry it forward into whatever future awaited her. The story that began with a cruel joke at a charity gala ended with something no one could have predicted. It ended with a family. It ended with hope. It ended with proof that people could change, that second chances mattered, that the distance between who we are and who we could become was only as wide as the courage it took to cross it. Marcus looked at his daughter, at Victoria, at the building that bore his wife's name, and he smiled. Because in the end, that was all any of them had ever wanted. A chance to prove they were worth believing in.